Hello everybody, my name is Kevin with Alpha One IT and welcome to Mastering Windows Server 2022 Core Edition. In this video we're going to be covering installing the Active Directory domain services, and we're going to be creating a domain controller within our domain using command line only with Server Core. Like I said, we're going to be installing the Active Directory domain services, creating a domain and promoting a domain controller, and then we're going to do a little bit of the domain controller validation just to ensure that we did stand up our domain controller properly. And with that, let's jump into our virtual machine. Alright, so now we're over here in our virtual machine, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go through sconfig, and we are going to go out to the command line. So that is going to be option 15 for us. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to paste in this quick little one-liner right here. And this is going to be the install Windows feature. The name is going to be ad-domain-services. And we want to include management tools, so that way we make sure we get everything that comes along with this. And this is going to install the Active Directory domain services. So we're going to hit enter, and we're going to let that install. And I'll see you guys here in just a second as we speed through this. Alright, so now that has installed the Active Directory domain services feature for us. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a PowerShell script. So we're going to go ahead and open up Notepad. And yes, thankfully this is included in Server Core. Trust me, it makes creating scripts a lot easier. So we're going to run a fairly simple one here, and I'll go through this real quick just for explanations. If you guys already know what this is, then you can go ahead and skip to the next part. But for those of you that don't, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to import the Active Directory Domain Services Deployment module, and that's a PowerShell module in there for us. Then we're going to install the Active Directory Domain Services Forest. And the Forest, as you can think of it, is basically a top-level container within an Active Directory configuration. So you have forests, and then you have domains below that. A forest is exactly what it sounds like. Think of it like a forest. And within that forest, you have trees. Each of those trees could be potentially a domain, a child domain, or something to that effect. So it's kind of the best little scenario I can set up for that one. Next is going to be create the DNS delegation. And for us, we're going to set that to false because we're not actually going to be setting a DNS delegation on this one. For the database path, we want to go ahead and leave that kind of as a default. It's going to go to C Windows NTDS. Next is going to be the domain mode. We're going to set that to win threshold. And what that means is the domain function level, which determines the available Active Directory features within the domain, which right now, if you do this, you'll notice for the schema and for the functioning level is going to be set to Server 2016. I know it sounds a little bit weird since we're installing this on Server 2022, but just know that 2016 is the latest and greatest, according to Microsoft and what they have. The domain name, we're going to set this. This is going to be for the FQDN, or the fully qualified domain name. And we're setting ours to testcore.local. And I'm setting that one right now because I do have another environment called just test.local. Easy way for me to differentiate them. So next is going to be the NetBIOS name of that, which is going to be used for a lot of older legacy applications, unfortunately. So thankfully, most of them have gone to a more modern where they're able to use FQDN. But if you work in an environment where you do have to have that kind of legacy support, just know that the NetBIOS name cannot exceed over 15 characters. So keep your domains as short as possible. Well, domain names anyways. For the force mode as well, we're going to be setting that to win threshold, and just know that it is 2016 as well. For the install DNS, we're going to set that to true because we are installing the DNS server on this one as well. For log path, we're going to set this to C Windows NTDS, which is going to be the default path if you were to run this through the GUI version as well. For the no reboot on completion, we're setting this to false, and we want the server to go ahead and reboot. So we're not setting there. You could set this to true and that would delay it, but we're going to go ahead and we're set it to false, so that way after everything finishes, it's going to go ahead and reboot. The sysvol path. For sysvol, you want to set this to the default or wherever you're going to be doing this, because this is going to be a public available folder within the domain hosted by the domain controller. And it's used to basically store the server copy of the domain public files that are used for common access, so your group policies and stuff like that, they're going to be kind of done there, as well as your replication for the domain is going to be set there as well. And then we're going to be doing the force, which is going to be true, because we don't need interactive. We already know what we want. We already know we want this file to go ahead and just, or this script to go ahead and run and install the domain for us. We don't need to verify anything. So now we're going to go up here to File, and we're going to do Save. We're creating a PowerShell script, so we're going to call this one install domain.ps1. And we're going to save the file type to all files. because I did put the .ps1 on there, and then we're going to hit save. Notice it is going to my documents folder, so we hit save. It's saved because now this is named. We can go ahead and close this out, and we'll go ahead and we'll move into that folder. So we're going to go into the documents folder because that's where I saved it, and then we'll do it the Windows way. We're going to do get child item, and you can see the only thing in this container right now is going to be the installed domain ps1. And if you wanted to, just to verify that this is what you created, you could cat that out by typing out the name, hit tab, do the autocomplete, and then hit enter. And that is what we put in there. Now to actually execute it, of course, now we can go ahead and start typing out the name, tab to autocomplete, and run this. And now this is going to ask us for a safe mode password. And this is going to be used for DSRM. And what that is basically domain services recovery mode, which is going to be safe boot for the domain. So if there's something that happens, something goes wrong, something goes awry, whatever the case is, and you have to boot into basically safe mode for the domain, you can do that using this password. So we're going to punch in our password here, make sure it's complex. This is a password that you don't really want to share with anybody unless they absolutely have to have access to it. This is going to be a break glass in case of emergency type password. So after we do that and we hit the enter twice on there, after we've confirmed it, it is going to go ahead and it is going to install the Active Directory domain forest, so domain services forest, install the domain controller, set everything up for us, and then it's going to go ahead and reboot the server for us. And you can watch it play out on your end. I'm going to speed through mine, and we'll see you after it's completed. So after the server finishes rebooting, you're going to be greeted with a different screen here. And this is going to be asking us for our credentials. But as you can see, it's a little bit different. It has sign into the test core, which is going to be that NetBIOS name on there like I was talking about earlier. And it is going to be into our domain. So for the username, we're going to go ahead and we're going to type in administrator. And we're going to use our password. And now we're going to log in with that account. And it is going to greet us with the sconfig as well. So if you look at option 1 here for the domain and workgroup, you are going to see that we are on domain. It's going to be test core.local, and the computer name is going to be testdco1. We want to go ahead and we're going to jump into PowerShell real quick just so I can show you a few things on there. And we're going to use the command get computer info, and it's going to spit out a whole bunch of text. We're going to go ahead and scroll up. And as you can see, we are still on server core, which is awesome. Lets me know I didn't jump to a different server. And we're going to go scroll down. And if you look at the host name, it is going to be the testdco1. The CS domain is going to be testcore.local. And our actual domain role is going to be a primary domain controller, which is going to be this computer here. So there's a whole bunch of other information here for you guys. If you ever have the opportunity to, go ahead and take a look at this, get an idea, because you can pull a whole bunch of information back for other different systems, not only this system, but other systems as well. And it gives you a better idea of what environment you're working in. But as for this, that's going to be it. So if you guys learned something from this video, please feel free to like this video, leave a comment below, let me know whether you'd like to see different or anything like that, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.